What's your thoughts on creating tasks related to tickets? You a fan of that?
I do, and I'll tell you why,
Mm,
especially if a ticket has a dependency on someone else doing something and it's not the
mm,
person who's owning the ticket and they need
uh,
somebody in the team to do something. And this happens it happened in one of the recent implementations we did where they have
mhm.
different teams who might have to actually get something done before the ticket gets closed.
Got it.
So they track that using the task or by assigning the ticket off to that person. I
Yep.
think the task is better because you can then see what hasn't been done because just because you move it into that to that person or into they actually had a pipeline status, which meant that it was sitting with that team. So they
Hmm.
knew if it was sitting there for a long time, what was going on.
Mm.
And they also made sure they assigned that ticket off to that person in that team. So
When
there's
you
two
say,
ways to do it.
yeah, when you say signed off, I think this comes back to custom ticket properties because you can actually have multiple owner properties on a ticket. There's the
Yes.
ticket owner, but you
Yeah.
could have, let's say, a ticket comes in and it requires some kind of handover to, say, the legal
Yes.
team. Legal have got to review a refund or something
Yeah.
like that. You can actually have, oh, this is the legal owner and assign it so that then they can get notified they're an owner of sorts
So
on that ticket, even though they're not the ticket owner.
yeah. So, Craig, what is your take on this? What would be your advice if you have scenarios like that? Like you've got legal, you've got compliance, you've got like a bunch of teams that may potentially touch a ticket. Would you still keep I would just talking through this myself, I would probably keep the ticket owner as a ticket owner, and then
Agreed.
you'd have these particular teams that interact as owners in that particular division or team that own those tickets, right?
Yeah, look, it's case by case,
Yeah.
of course, but I'm not a big fan of switching out owners
Yeah.
on tickets or deals or anything
Yes,
for that
yes,
matter.
yes. Yeah.
I like creating separate fields or separate properties
Hmm.
on an object with other owner, owner
That's some good
type.
advice there for me, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah. But again, case by case. That's not always the case. Sometimes it makes sense, but yeah, as a general comment.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I want people to understand. There are different ways to skin this cat, right? And we've got to actually work out what works for you and your team and what makes logical sense. Now, when you're talking through it and having this is what I love about working with Craig is you have someone else to bounce ideas and get a different perspective on. The way I think, the way Craig thinks is very different, similar but different, right? But you will always have some good suggestions for me in terms of
Mm,
have you actually thought about this? Is this the best way to do it?
mm.
And I think like that kind of conversation where you're able to have that conversation, able to work a way forward, I think is actually really good.